Thank you. And you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here today. What we're going to look at is Sage 100 and also our Sage Service Operation module. Today we're focusing on what Sage 100 and Sage Service Operations can do for the service contractor. As a former controller for a specialty contractor, I understand the need for fully integrated service and construction specific system. Whether you're a plumbing contractor, electrical, HVAC, or any other type of specialty contractor that does both service work and construction, Sage has you covered. Not all systems can handle a company that needs multiple types of billing, the ability to create budgets and quotes for a job, but also dispatch work to the field. Today, I'll discuss the advantages of having an integrated solution that connects the field to the office. Most customers we work with have similar issues that have caused them to seek out new software. Whether they're running a generic accounting package, which has forced them to create workarounds to get information that they need to run their business, or maybe they're using a construction-specific package that's just become antiquated and no longer meets their growing company needs. A big reason companies are moving to Sage 100 is because it's a fully integrated solution, specifically built for the construction industry. Now, if you look at my system menu over here on the left, and while we aren't going to cover all these items today, I think you can see by looking at the menu how you can quickly check off the tasks that maybe you or your fellow teammates are doing in the office outside of your existing system. One of the things that Sage does a great job of is managing the entire workflow in one system. And the other thing to keep in mind is while you're doing these things in one product, it also has a very easy to use design. Whether you like to work through the system menu or use the built-in workflows that are configurable, navigating around Sage 100 is easy. But today we're going to specifically focus on the needs of you, the service contractor. Since labor is your main expense, communicating with your employees and maximizing their productivity is vital to your business. Sage integrates your accounting software in the office with the field. Now let's walk through the workflow that a user would take when you get a new call from a customer to do a new project or service call. I'm going to bring up my work order. And the work order is where it all starts with Sage. The work order screen is where I can log who the client is, the reason for their call. But if you notice, I can also tie it to a job. So if I have longer projects that require maybe multiple visits, I'm able to create multiple work orders, but yet tie them back to a job to get total job costs for that job. I'm also able to enter in notes that I'm going to communicate to the field. And decide when the job needs to, or when the work order needs to be scheduled. Now, if I know the technician that's going to do the work, I can select the technician and assign it to them. But I may not know who the technician is, and I can choose to assign it on my dispatch board later on. Now, once the office has set up the work order, we can send this information out to the field. I can start by doing that under my dispatch board. My dispatch board, which is available within the service module, allows me to assign work to different technicians. Here I can see that this technician's got several work orders assigned to them, but I also see over here on the left-hand side all the work orders that have not yet been assigned to my technicians. These different buckets are configurable. I've used them to illustrate different divisions within my company. So I can see that these are work orders for the plumbing group. These are work orders that are for HVAC. And to assign work, I simply just drag and drop the work to a technician. And now that work has been assigned. Now, a lot of systems, this is where it stops. The work order has been created, and I'm left to communicate that information to my technician by a phone call, an email, or a text. But with Sage Service Operations, I'm sending that information directly to my technician, and they're going to be able to receive it immediately and update that, read the information and update that work order. So why don't we go and look at the Sage Service Operations now that the work order has been set up in our accounting software. I'm going to drag my Sage Service Operations desktop over here. So now what we're looking at is what the technician sees in the field. So if I'm a technician that has a tablet, a cell phone, an iPad, I have access to Sage Service Operations. This is a web-based program that is accessible from any of those different platforms. The technician, when I log into my program, I see all the work that's been assigned to me. So as the office assigns me new work orders, they appear on my assignments page. I also get a notification email letting me know that there is new work if I'm not looking at my tablet all the time. Now, as a technician, I've received a work order. I can simply click on the work order and see what the office has assigned to me now. When I drill into the work order, I'm able to see where the work is located. And by using the directions button, it's going to route me using my map, any map app on my phone to that location. I'm able to see the quick description of the work. And if I click on the Notes tab, I'm able to see the notes that were entered in from the office. Now, as a technician, one of the things that commonly gets asked is, have we been out to this location before? And if we have, what have we done out there? Now, again, that usually requires a call back to the office. But with Sage Service Operations, I'm able to drill right into the customer's record and view all the past work orders that I have done with this technician, done for this customer. I'm able to drill into any one of these and see notes, see the history of this customer. So we go back into our work order that we were reviewing. So now that I've got my assignment, things that I can do within this work order, I'm able to clock into this work order. I'm able to say that I'm now starting my assignment. And now Sage is going to begin tracking the time on this work order. Or if I don't want to track my time, maybe I just simply want to log my time, I'm able to come in and just log my payroll hours, but also the hours I want to bill my customer. Now, a common question I get is, what if my payroll hours are different than my invoice hours? Well, if you give your technician controls of this, they can set the invoice hours to be different from the payroll hours. Otherwise, the office can update the invoice hours when it comes back into the office. Now, as I'm working in the field, I may need to buy materials. I may need to pull materials from my truck or the warehouse, and I can record both those pieces of information directly into my work order. So if I do inventory parts, which Sage can completely handle tracking inventory, I can record those inventoried items that I pulled off of my truck or out of the warehouse simply by choosing to add a part. Now, if I don't know the part number, that's fine. I simply can type in a description, and Sage pulls from your parts database, giving you all the choices that match that description. I can select the part I want to add, put in a quantity, and simply save it now to my work order. By selecting this inventoried item, it's now removing it from my inventory and adding it to this work order. Now, a lot of times what happens is we have to go to a parts house and purchase additional materials. I can account for those too. The technician can log in additional materials purchased, put in a price, or leave the pricing for the office. It's up to each user how they set that up. So now as a technician, I have been able to review notes, add my own notes of what happened, put in the time that I worked on the job, what needs to be invoiced. I can also record materials that I've pulled from my warehouse or my truck, record any additional materials that I've purchased, and now I can attach any photos of the job. Using the camera on my phone, I can take pictures and then attach those pictures to my work order simply by clicking Add Attachments and adding those attachments. Once all this is completed, I'm now ready for my customer to sign off on all of this work. Now, depending on how you set up your system, you may choose to provide the customer with all the pricing, and this becomes the invoice that they use to pay you from. Or maybe you're just simply letting them know, I was here for so many hours, performed this work, I want you to sign off from it so the office now can bill you for that information. So if I click on View My Service Report, this is where Sage has pulled in all those pieces of information your technician has filled out. The work that they performed, the materials they installed, the amount of time it took them, and then you're able to tell the system if the work is completed or not, and have your customer sign off on the work and automatically email it to them. I can also choose when I email to attach those pictures that I took. So now my customer is getting their service report with any pictures taken immediately when I complete the job. So now that my work is complete, the office is going to be notified automatically. They get an email that the work is complete with that service report attached. And now when they come back into that service report, back in here, what they see is all the details that your technician filled in the field. They see the parts they added. They see the labor that they added. No longer are you having to wait for a technician to fill out their paperwork and make its way back to the office. As soon as they complete their work order, that information flows directly back into Sage. Now it's ready for the office to go ahead and review it and turn it into a receivable invoice and email it directly out of the system as well. So the information that also comes over, aside from the details for invoicing, are the attachments. If I click on this attachment tool, I'm able to see that service report that we created. I'm able to see all those pictures that we also attached. So here's my service report. Here's my signature that I just signed off on. So the office has everything they need to invoice our client and then follow up later on if there's a collections issue. They have all the backup for any questions that may occur. Now, Sage Service Operations can also be used for keeping up with quotes. So another scenario that happens is a technician goes out to a job. Maybe they have a do not to exceed. Technician starts work and hits at a point where a quote needs to be generated. Somebody else needs to order parts and put together a quote for a customer. Now, a lot of times that happens with a phone call back to the office, or that happens with an email being sent that can easily be lost. But with Sage Service Operations, we're going to be able to tie this all into one system and keep up with it. So as a technician, I've started my work. Now there's a question for a quote that's come up. Right from the work order, I can click New Quote. Give it a description. Sage automatically knows what client it's tied to, where it came from, the work order it was generated from, allows the technician to say how many hours they already have into this job, put in any additional comments, and generate a quote. Now notice down at the bottom, it's referencing a service manager. So the service manager is going to get an email sent to them notifying them they have a new quote, and it's now created my quote, but more importantly, it's added it to my quote log. So now anyone can come in and review all the quotes that are outstanding. We keep up with the status, so we're able to track if it's still just a new quote, if it's been submitted and we're waiting for our customer's approval, or maybe it has been approved and now we're ready to turn this quote into a new work order. So once a quote has been approved, I simply come back into the quote and am able to turn this into a work order. So the quote allows me to list out everything that is going to go into the quote: labor, materials, any other miscellaneous items, and generate a document that I can send to my customer to approve. Once it's been approved, then it becomes a work order. Once it's a work order, it now can be scheduled. So from Sage Service Operations, the technician's able to view all the work that's been assigned to them. They're able to view the customer's history, and they're able to keep up with their labor hours for payroll. So if you notice on the right-hand side, you've got your hours listed. So as a technician, every time I clock in and out of my work orders or log the hours that I've worked, Sage is keeping up with those on a daily basis, and then at the end of the week, the total. Every time I enter in hours, that time is being updated in Sage. So I'm eliminating another step of having to put the payroll into Sage. So now that I have finished my work in the field, let's go take a look at what's integrated with Sage and moved over into Sage for billing purposes and also for payroll. So we reviewed that our work orders come back in here and get updated with the information that the field has put in. Let's take a look at one that's come full cycle. Here's the work that we've billed out to our customer for installing a new HVAC unit. But then also what has been associated with this work order is all the costs. So the costs get charged to a work order from a couple different places. Most importantly, from payroll and the time that our technician is logging against the work order, but also from accounts payable and purchase orders that have been issued. So here I see labor, I see material on the job. I'm able to see the total cost of this work order against the work order. So by tracking this all within one work order, I'm able to see the profitability of the work order. I'm also able to see profitability of technicians and of customers overall. Now, where the payroll flows into is our payroll module. So within payroll, every day as a technician they're logging in their time, that is automatically flowing back into our daily payroll entry. So as I see on my daily payroll entry screen, all those work orders that I worked on today and the time I logged against it. So as a user, I'm not having to rekey in those time cards into Sage. Sage Service Operation is pulling that information in for me directly. So for the service contractor, the work order is key in being able to issue a work order to my technician. My technician received that information and update it, and then me invoice that information out. But a lot of times service contractors do some construction work, and that's why Sage is such a powerful tool. It allows the service contractor not only to handle the service side of their business, but also the construction side of their business. Being able to create budgets for those jobs, being able to manage change orders for those jobs, issue purchase orders, and also subcontracts if I sub any work out. All of these items get tied into my different job cost reports, allowing me to see profitability on my job and where my job is against my budget. Now, where all this information gets pulled together, aside from job cost reports, is from a high level on our dispatch board. As an executive, the user is able to come into our dispatch board and see key indicators across the company and evaluate the areas that are important to them. each user is able to customize their desktop to see what key indicators are important to them on their dashboard. And from here, any of these items can be drilled into. So if I wanted to review these invoices that this customer owes me, a simple double click will take me into the details of that report. And then another double click will take me into the actual transactions. So I'm able to go from high level information all the way into detailed information. So as a service contractor, eliminating the duplication, I think, is the biggest. Eliminating the waiting from information from the field is going to speed up your business processes, allowing you to invoice your customers quicker, communicate with your technicians faster, and we can do that all within Sage 100. So those are just a few of the reasons why so many trade contractors have chosen Sage for their business. I hope this high-level overview gave you a good introduction to Sage and Sage service operations.